All right. Hello. Welcome back. Sorry, I am dealing with a little bit of bronchitis and acute bronchitis. So if I sound a little weird, I'm so sorry. But welcome to the Ready to Rise podcast and I think vlog now because I am trying to record these onto my YouTube page. But hi, I'm so excited that we are meeting together again. I gotta take a sip of water because I don't know why I'm trying to do this right now, but we're gonna make it happen. All right, well, let's get this back in motion here. Welcome to the Ready to Rise podcast with Lucie Mitchell. I am your host, Lucie Mitchell, and I am so excited to be here this week before Thanksgiving break. A good time for me to just go ahead and get sick, right? That way, it's all done. It's all done and done, I should say. I wanted to bring up my notes because I have something really important I wanted to talk to you about. I've actually been in conversation with several different people, some of you, about negative thinking. And I actually have something amazing in the works. And that's why I was like, oh, I would love to talk about this. Because I am working on a masterclass right now and I cannot wait to launch it. And it really is all about how to overcome negative self-thoughts, negative self-talk, because we all do it, right? So I've figured for the purpose of this podcast to kind of lead into the announcement of this masterclass that is being launched soon, I'll just share a couple tips. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hi, thank you so much for your support. Please share this with your friends. Check out the show notes. Make sure that you've signed up for my texting service because that's how you're going to know that it's launched. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, thank you again so much for your support. I really do appreciate you. I don't want to make this one too long, because again, I'm dealing with bronchitis and I need to go have some chicken noodle soup. So with that being said, let's get right to it, okay? How do you control negative self-talk, right? That is like huge. When you start to control it, I feel like that is when you can start living the life that you want to live. And this might be centered more around the focus of entrepreneurship, and that's okay because it really goes into any aspect of our life. Like, there is nothing more defeating, I would say, than as an entrepreneur dealing with yourself and our negative self-talk, like setbacks, a lack of finances, maybe a lack of just business going in the direction that you want it to go in. There's like everything else I would say is easier to deal with if we didn't have ourselves in the way, right? As entrepreneurs and as business owners, self-employed, or you work a 9 to 5, whatever it is, we're faced with the same questions, I feel like, every day of like, can I do this? Like, who am I to do this? Am I being realistic? I mean, the list can go on and on. And the reason why I bring up those questions, because again, I always try to speak from personal experience, but part of the Ready to Rise movement is acknowledging those negative thoughts, those voices, those limitations that have stopped us from being able to step into that best version of ourselves, whether it's as an entrepreneur, as a spouse, as a mother, as a daughter, as a son, as a husband, as an entrepreneur. Like, these are normal thoughts. We feel them and hear them all the time. It's like, if you're dating, how often have you said that guy will never be into me, or she'll never date me? That is that negative self-talk, because you're automatically assuming, you're putting that negative energy out there into the world that doesn't need to be there in the first place. Like, I'm truly convinced that like it's the way that we talk to ourselves in our heads that affects us more than actually what's happening. Because I will tell you personally, like when I met my husband, like we met online, go back to episode 2, and we talked on the phone off and on for 10 months. Just the universe was not having it line up for us to meet at that time. And next year we're celebrating 19 years of marriage. But I was just like, this guy's just not into me. There's something going on. Maybe he's married. Maybe he's gay. Maybe he's not happy with, like, maybe he's fat. I don't know. I just couldn't figure it out because I automatically was putting it on him. So I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. But at the same time, by making up excuses for him, I was saying it was something with me because I wasn't jumping up and saying, hey, why aren't we meeting? Until like 10 months later when I was like, look, I don't need you calling me again if we're not going to meet. Like, we need to meet up. And as soon as we did, it was love at first sight. But there was many that I believe he had a lot of negative self-talk too about, like, this girl is not going to wait around for me while I figure out my crap. Like, this is essentially how we all start out, like applying for that job, that dream job that you want, launching that new business that you want, that you know you're going to strive at. There are so many inner thoughts that come in our, just bust into our brain, into our self-awareness, that just have no business being there, right? So let's talk about the 3 like steps to control the negative, like, chit chat that's killing our vibe. It's killing our motivation and definitely killing our self-esteem. Okay. So it all begins with awareness. Take time out to be aware of your negative self-talk. You have to be aware. Like, what is this? It's like in meditation, being consumed by constant thought is called the monkey mind. Okay, so okay, raise your hand. Meditating is really hard. Like, Buddha, he described the human mind as being filled with drunken monkeys, jumping around, screeching, chattering, carrying on endlessly. God, I gotta love Buddha. Excuse me. We all have monkey minds, Buddha said, with dozens of monkeys all clamoring for attention. Okay, so first of all, I have to say kudos to Buddha for, like, over 2,000 years ago, realizing that we all have crazy brains. Okay, there's a study, I wanted to pull it up really quick for myself, but it says 96% of adults engage in inner dialogue. Okay, we talk to ourselves, but how often do you answer yourself back? Okay, because I know I do. I talk to my dog and I swear I answer for him. Okay, and I'm not talking just the out loud admitting we're crazy kind of talk, but the internal, full of thoughts, constantly questioning kind of talk. It's like laying there in bed and you have a hard time falling asleep, right? Like, because you can't shut your brain off. I tend to call it like overactive brain syndrome. Maybe I'm making something up. I have no idea, but like, literally, there are a bunch of drunken monkeys running around in my head. Like if we were really being honest with ourselves, these monkeys, are they nice? I don't want to make this podcast all about monkeys, but I'm kind of going to ride with it because it sounds like so cool. Like, in fact, we hear the term that we are our harshest critic. And sorry, again, so sorry, I'm trying to get this out without coughing. It's going to be difficult, but it's true. Our negative self-talk can be like an ass most of the time. Like, seriously, an ass. Okay, the human mind seems to focus on the negative, and we tend to berate ourselves in these ways, and ways that we would never tolerate from a spouse, from a boss, from anyone else, right? But we will tolerate it from ourselves. I feel like that's crap. I feel like we need to stop that. And the most ironic part is, while we won't accept how we speak to ourselves by anyone else, we accept the inner dialogue like it's right. Like, it knows. Like we don't even realize it, but we do. Okay, stay with me. The only way to stop this inner dialogue and get those dang monkeys to stop drinking, stop having a drunken party in our heads, is to listen to how we talk about ourselves. How tough is our negative self-talk? Like, literally, how bad is it? Okay. Another way that you can kind of hone in on this and like stop it is through meditation. I know I talked about this a couple minutes ago. Like, if you meditate, you know this feeling all too well. Like, meditation is about letting those thoughts come up, acknowledging them, like, okay, I hear you, and then releasing, separating yourself from that thought. Meditation is a great way to get that awareness. All right. Another thing is like schedule time in the day to acknowledge your thoughts. Maybe you do this through journaling. Like, choose a time to acknowledge your thoughts as they come up during the day. Like in the car, for example. I don't know about you, but driving is usually where most of my thoughts like come pouring through. It's just like most of my creative ideas come out while I'm exercising. And there's no way for me to put a notebook up on my Peloton. But as soon as, I don't know if it's all their motivational talks and their quips and their little words that Cody uses and says, but I get really creative and I have to try and grab my phone while I'm cycling like crazy to write down my notes. And then when I go back and look at my notes, I'm like, what the heck were you talking about, Lucie? What is this? It's it's at least it's an effort. Okay. But when you get lost in thought, you do need to try and like pull yourself back in, like pull the reins in, acknowledge what you've said. The first few times are really going to be hard, but you'll start realizing them as they come up. And I don't want you to dwell on these negative thoughts. Please don't. Like, don't beat yourself up even harder. Just, if anything, acknowledge them and say, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to address this. I'm going to heal this. Okay. Maybe keep a thought record is another great like tool. There's nothing that can give you like a good swift kick in the butt than like writing down your thoughts. Okay. Visualizing like how you communicate to yourself. It's really powerful. I will tell you that much. Like, for all of the changes that can come from realizing your negative self-talk, it is so worth it. Sorry, guys. Okay, ask yourself some questions, like challenge your negative self-talk. To change your self-talk, you must confront the second person or the inner critic. Or remember, go back to the narrator episode, who probably isn't dealing in truth. It's all lies. And we are really, what is the word? It's not transformed. We are really molded into our thought process starting from our youth in either what we hear or what we're told. Okay, so there's a lot of work that does have to be done. And I want you to understand that you might be thinking, well, I acknowledge that my shit's like all over the place and my mind agrees. Okay, so what's next? Well, you got to ask yourself some good old questions like what's next is to ask how this makes you feel. Do you feel good with all this negative self-thought and negative self-talk? Like, is it really true? Ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this a bunch of drunken ass, super convincing monkeys just having a good time in my head? I guarantee you it's just a bunch of drunken monkeys. Okay, a lot of people usually recommend like jumping to change your thoughts and like replace it with, I don't know, like happy music, jazz, favorite, pop, whatever. But if you don't actually stop and think to yourself, like, who am I to speak to myself this way? And what would I have to believe to think in a more positive way? Like, if you don't stop and actually do that, you're not going to really find the motivation to actually change the way you think. And this is really difficult and this is really disheartening. Okay. We're not just changing our thoughts, we're changing our beliefs. The belief system that we have is where it all starts. It literally does. So, some key questions I would say asking yourself is, sorry, what do I have to believe to think that? Okay. What would I say to someone else saying this? Hmm. Would I accept being spoken to this way by anybody else? Is this really true? Should I take advice from this person? Like, if you are self projecting an opinion from someone else, like, are you wanting to take advice from them too? Like, maybe you need to reevaluate that relationship. And I think that one of the most important questions to ask yourself is, how can I learn from this? Okay. Um, the other thing now is, once you've identified what this negative self thought is, you need to replace it. You need to replace it with positive, present tense self talk. Like, put new self talk in the present tense as if the change has already taken place. The thing about our subconscious mind is it does not know what is true and what isn't true. So, in time, it will believe these new messages and act accordingly. Okay. You have to paint an entirely new picture for your subconscious mind in order to derive the full benefit of your new self talk, if that makes sense. Okay. So, like, there's a quote that says, "Nothing is my fault, but everything is my responsibility." Nothing is my fault, but everything is my responsibility. And this one really stuck with me in those times that I caught myself playing victim. Okay. Or maybe you could say something like this: "Today I worked hard, and though not everything worked out the way I hoped, I feel good about myself, and tomorrow will be even better." I do that one with my kids. I've done that with my kids since they were little. Because why have them be stuck on something that went bad today when today's almost done? Tomorrow's a whole new day. You could just start over. You could just start from scratch. Okay, like, whatever it is, it's about changing the way we see challenges and how we talk to ourselves about them. Okay, like, replacing the disempowering questions with empowering questions. Ooh, okay, so what does that look like? Like, a lot of our thoughts will come in the form of questions like, why does this always happen to me? That's a huge one. Like, so if you were to take that question and change it into, how can I learn from this? Sounds a little bit more positive, right? It's a learning lesson. Like, if you really want to change your quality of life, change the quality of your questions. Don't ask yourself, why do things like this always happen to me? Or what did I do to deserve this? But instead, pivot it to, what is actually happening? Like, what is not actually happening? What can I do about this? I want you to start talking to yourself compassionately. Like, you can do all of this, you can do all of these things and still wonder why you're not feeling motivated and positive. And most of it is just because of not so much what we say to ourselves, but how we say it. You'd be amazed. I'm telling you, you would be amazed at how much your perspective changes when you approach yourself with kindness. When is the last time you were kind to yourself? Hmm? Like, we're always so quick to say things like, why, like, don't worry. I mean, don't worry. And this never happens to you. It only happens to me. Or I don't know. I don't know why I always mess things up. Like, we're always so quick to jump to blaming ourselves when things don't go right. And I swear 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with you. Okay. Like, yes, there's a time and a place to look at the things that we're doing and how we can improve them. It's just like cooking. But the key is talking to yourself nicely about it. Okay. So instead of saying you really mess things up, like, say, well, I learned from this and I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep growing. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's okay. Like, we're all going to make a lot of mistakes. It's inevitable because, remember, we're not perfect. But if we're nicer to ourselves about the mistakes that we make, like, It makes learning and living a lot more enjoyable. Okay. And again, negative self-talk can be so so deflating as an entrepreneur. But the one thing to remember in all of this is how to control your negative self-talk. Like, we're not perfect. It will always be there for us to correct and pull ourselves back. Like, remind yourself of, what was it? The little engine that could. Okay. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And then it would roll back. I'm really probably dating myself here. And any of my younger millennial listeners, just go look it up. But excuse me. The little engine that could was so determined to get to the top of the mountain. And all he kept saying afterward, over and over, is, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Would roll back down, rev up the engine again. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Roll back down. Do it again and again and again until he reached the top. And that can be you. Okay. That totally can be you. And I want you, at the end of this, I want you to go look in the mirror, and I want you to truly and honestly go tell yourself that you are awesome, that you are doing the best that you can, and you can only get better tomorrow. Okay. I have got an amazing masterclass that is launching super, super soon. I cannot wait for it. And it's all about overcoming negative self-talk. It is a 3-day masterclass equipped with a VIP option workbook, and where we really are going to break down how, like, deeper dive the steps of where negative self-talk stems from, how to identify it prior to, and how to start, like, making those autocorrect steps in order to eliminate and turn it into positive self-talk. So what I want you to do is to make sure that you text FAB to the number in the show notes so that you are the first to find out when this masterclass launches. I'm putting the final touches on it. And again, I really do hope that this helped you. Like, we all can become slaves to our inner narrator. And it's all about breaking those chains. Because once you do, you really are able to step into the most fierce and most beautiful version of yourself. Okay. So until next time, I honor you for being a part of this collective. I honor you for taking the time out of your day to listen or to watch. I cannot wait for my next podcast. Until then, just keep shining bright.